I'm curious because I've heard this story before, but hearing it again, it sparked a thought. Um, for some, the thought for a parent is, I don't want to hurt or hinder my child's potential to advance, and I can't afford to send them. So let me find out about student loans. Your mom said, I don't want to hinder my child's progression, and I can't afford to send her. So let me tell her about scholarships. Where do you think your mom got that idea from? Because when you went to college, student loans were what was pushed. It was becoming more easily accessible than the generation, a few years prior when I went to college. Student loans was not, as shoved down your throat as it is now. So where do you think your mom got that forethought not to just say, hey, they got these student loans and that's a way that you can go, but instead she put a different seed in you to say, start thinking about scholarships as a way to go.
Yeah, well, thankfully, she was an immigrant, and in a sense, like, there was a lot that she didn't know, and what's funny is freshman year, people have often been like, "Oh, were you super determined to go debt-free?" And it's like, "Yes," but it wasn't really in the context of, like, avoiding student loans because, honestly, I didn't even know about student loans. Like, I don't think my mom really knew about student loans. I think we both thought when we started this journey that if I didn't somehow come up with the cash, then I couldn't go to college. Like, I think that that was kind of the place we started in was we just didn't really know any better. We thought that like if we wanted to go to college, we had to somehow figure out a way to pay for it. And so thankfully, that was kind of the way we started. And then come senior year, when they did start pushing loans on me, it's like I had already ingrained in my head that I was going to get scholarships and I was going to go debt free. At this point, it's like debt free. But at that time, I was just trying to raise enough scholarship money and I felt like I could do it. That it was like, oh, no, I don't want student loans. Like I could actually pay for this with scholarships and avoid that completely. So thankfully, that's why I encourage parents to have conversations about money early on because it's like I know it can be kind of intimidating. A lot of kids don't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it my freshman year. I was kind of resistant, but I'm thankful my mom had the courage and the drive and the push to have that uncomfortable conversation because it's like she instilled this desire to pay for it with cash, with scholarships before I had some student loan officer at a college saying, "Hey, this is the way you should go. This is easy. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we've got this money that's cheap and easy." And it's like, that's not true. I had a different belief before that.
So now here we are in a situation where there's something like $1 trillion worth of student loans out there. Can you help us understand? Because I think that because so many people have student loans or know people with student loans that we don't see just how big of a detrimental impact our society is facing currently when it comes to the topic of student loans. Just do you have any insight on how dire the situation is right now?
I mean, it's terrible. Like there was a study that came out recently that said that 93% of people don't feel like they'll be able to resume payments on their student loans and 27% of people don't think they'll ever be able to restart. So it's like these numbers, the anxiety around student loans starting again, like it's just crazy. People are really feeling the heat and feeling the impact and we see so many studies coming out saying that people are delaying major life decisions like getting married, having a child, buying a house because they feel the weight in the pressure of these student loans and they think they can never get out from under them. One of the things we teach here is getting rid of the student loans. So right now the government is saying push it off, like, and there's all this confusion about forgiveness, but we're all about controlling the controllables. So we want to encourage people to get free from that weight and to get free from debt. We have the 7 baby steps and we encourage people to pay off debt using the debt snowball, and it's really cool because a lot of the people who go through the program pay off all their debt in 18 to 24 months. So I just want to encourage anyone with student loans, like you don't have to live with this forever, even though, society kind of tells you like just this is it and you're gonna have to feel this weight and this burden for a really long time. I just really want to encourage you that you can get rid of it and live your life with financial freedom.
And one of the things you said was there's a lot of confusion around forgiveness, student loan forgiveness. Can you offer some insight on where you see people, because you do this work for a living around this topic? Where are people confused? What should they know? What should they be more clear about when it comes to forgiveness?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is the government keeps going back and forth right now. Like, there's just not a lot of clarity and forgiveness. And I think there's been a lot of promises that have been made and a lot of promises that have not been fulfilled. We've seen that with public student loan forgiveness, I think only 2% has been forgiven thus far. So a lot of people who counted on this forgiveness have not received it. And there's been a lot of red tape in the process. People went in thinking, I'm doing all the right things. And then maybe they got switched to a different district as a teacher, or maybe they got laid off. And it's like, wow, I did everything right, and then something beyond my control happened, and now I'm not going to get my loans forgiven. And that's crazy. So I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of broken promises, and now I feel like it's a carrot that's been dangled in front of people, and it's hard because we don't know what's going to happen. Um, and it's just I think people are really stressed out about that. So that's again why I try to encourage people to go to the controllables. Like we can't control what the government's going to do. We don't know if they're going to actually forgive student loans. So I just encourage people to take advantage of this pause because while interest isn't accruing, this is the best time to be paying off your loans. You can make the most progress during this time.
Now unpack that, because we've said that on our platform, but maybe you can expound a little bit better. Why, with this pause, is this an opportunity for people to have a greater impact on their student loan debt?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at your payments, when it's not in a pause, when it's not in this specific pause, so much of your payment is going towards interest. We've talked to people who like most of their payment is going towards interest. Right now, that is not the case. Like if you make a payment right now, that is going directly to principal. That is going straight to reducing this overall debt. It's been crazy. I've done some student loan coaching calls recently with people with six figures in student loan debt, and they've just talked about and told their stories about how they made payments, they did the minimum payment throughout the year, and somehow their balance just keeps growing. It's because they had these crazy interest rates, and so much of that minimum payment is just going to interest. But right now this is a chance to actually get ahead, to knock down that principal and make your payment just the most effective it can be.
What do you say to people who feel hopeless about their student loan debt? I've heard people say, I'm just going to take this to the grave. There ain't no way I can get out of this. And it varies from amounts. Some people with 30, 50, some people in six figures worth of student loan debt. They just feel despondent. They feel hopeless. And they just feel like this is like the Apostle Paul. This is just going to be the thorn in my side for the rest of my life. It's nothing I can do about it. How would you speak to that?
Yeah, I know a lot of people feel that way and it's overwhelming. But I go back to we've seen so many people pay this off. We've seen people with six figures in student loan debt pay it off and do it and get free. If you're feeling that way and you're feeling really discouraged, I encourage you to watch The Ramsey Show. So we're on every day from 1 to 4 Central Time. And once an hour, we have people come on and do their debt free scream. And it's so inspiring and so cool because you see people who have been in super crazy amounts of debt and they've put in the work and they've paid it off and they're standing on the stage telling their story and then screaming out at the end, I'm debt free. And it's just so amazing and powerful because it's like, wow, these people have hustled and grinded and they did what they had to do. And they're standing there in a completely different disposition, just saying, wow, like I don't have to worry about this anymore. So I know it's so hard. And again, like we're seeing study after study about people, putting off these major life events and feeling like they can't move forward. And this is just something they're going to have to carry around forever. But we're also seeing all these people who have tackled it and made it happen. So I just really encourage you to choose that spot of hope and be willing to put in the work. And even if it is a lot of work. So baby step 2, we have the 7 baby steps. Baby step 1 is save $1,000 emergency fund. Baby step 2 is paying off all your debt using the debt snowball. So this phase of the baby steps, it's not always the most fun, right? But it's just a season. So if you go in and you go hard, you're going to make a lot of sacrifices. You may have to get a second job. You're going to get on a budget. You may have to really cut back on your expenses. But again, if you go all in, if you get super intense, you can knock this out quick, or at least a lot quicker than what the government programs have signed you up for, which for a lot of people, it's 10, 20 years. You can knock this out way sooner than that.
What would you say to parents to help them realize, especially if they have student loan debt of their own, that they should make it their business and their priority if they have high school or junior high age kids to start talking to them about college now, like your mom did, and help them to avoid being saddled with student loan debt like they may be faced with right now?
Yeah, well, I try to talk to anyone who has student loans right now and is mad about the toxic culture and the way the system is set up. Become an advocate for the younger generation. So I have people stop me all the time and say, Christina, I just wish that someone would have talked to me in high school about college and going debt free and told me that I could actually win scholarships. Like so many people just didn't have that conversation and they weren't set up for success. So I encourage anyone who has student loans and they're mad about it to be an advocate for younger kids and help them realize that there's a different way. Share your story, share your experience, and counteract those people that are saying, oh, just take out a bunch of debt. It's no big deal. Like you'll be able to pay it off with a great degree you get. Tell them your story and tell them, that it wasn't that easy and maybe what you would have done differently and what you wish you would have known early on. So we have a documentary called Borrowed Future, and I'm super proud of this documentary because it's been an awesome resource for me to share with kids. And it basically exposes the toxic student loan industry. It shows how the system it's really built to work against you, and it also shows how you have the power to beat the system. So I love using this as a resource with kids because it's like it speaks right to the heart. It's got stories in it of people who were basically told, take out student loans. This is the way to go, and then it shows them as adults and the consequences and just the way it actually feels paying it back. And I think it's really eye opening because it's like, okay, wow, this isn't that easy. But it also has debt free stories where it's like it can be done a different way.